And we're live. All truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. So think about that for a second. And I'm sure you can see how Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do went through these three stages. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast number 155. This is the one about Jeet Kune Do and the three stages of truth. As you guys are logging in, if you'd be kind enough to say where you're logging in from and hit the like button. And feel free to continue doing so throughout the broadcast. If you are catching the final edit video over on the YouTube, be sure to like, rate, subscribe, and hit the notification bell over there. And if you'd like to support the show, please visit jkdrebel.com, where you can see cool stuff like this. The UMA Bob Landers will get a kick out of this one. The Kali JKD t-shirt. It's a ripoff of Dan and Asano design, and it's also a ripoff of the late Ted Lukai's term for his approach. That's over at jkdrebel.com. Click on the Rebel Gear link and check it out. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Okay, so three stages of truth, ascribed to Arthur Schopenhauer back in the 1800s. Some people will say that the process of acknowledging the truth is broken down into those three stages, right? So the first stage is ridicule, and that is when a new idea or a new concept is brought up, and it's a little bit peculiar. So even for some people, it's completely absurd. And some people cannot really grasp the idea at all. And they don't see, in the case of martial art, they don't see how it will fit into their practice. So they kind of laugh it off at how ridiculous it is. Last week, I told you a story about the aftermath of the 1967 Long Beach Internationals, and Bruce Lee was asked about what it was that he had just demonstrated, and he had said something like, it's no style because it's all styles. And that's the story as I heard it, which, you know, in today's climate, you kind of have to qualify everything that you say in case somebody fact checks you, right? There's another story that I heard. I don't have many details on this, only that it was another, maybe not even a formal demonstration setting, but the story is that Bruce Lee showed some kind of blend of Wing Chun and grappling. And so he was admonished by someone present who said, Bruce Lee, you can't mix Wing Chun, Kung Fu, and Jiu Jitsu. So Bruce Lee does another demonstration, right? And he says, yes, I can. Here's another. And the guy says, well, you're not supposed to. So I say that we can imagine that that guy went off, you know, swearing that Bruce Lee was kind of a irreverent upstart, and that, you know, he and the people associated with him were probably going to go to hell, right? So, okay, don't fact check me on this one, because, you know, sometimes even if the story is not true, if it's a story that was created to sell, not sell, to tell, yeah, to sell a concept, to tell a story to give you an idea and a deeper understanding, I think it's okay, right? All right, second stage is opposition. So after that new concept or that new idea makes it past the first stage, even if begrudgingly for some people, people might begin to worry that it's here to stay. A few of them might support it, but then perhaps more will resist it because they see it as a threat to everything that they're familiar with. So it's the proverbial new kid on the block. If somebody new on the block is teaching something in martial art, heaven forbid that it be popular and it catch on, right? A lot of people see that as a threat to, in some instances, their livelihood, because here they've been teaching their traditional or their classical art. And now along comes this upstart Bruce Lee with his modern, non-classical Chinese gung fu, whatever. And it's like, no, 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 we can't have this, right? Opposition to Jeet Kune Do. A lot of us might not have been around to experience that because we weren't in Seattle or Oakland or California in the 1960s and the 70s. But I can assure you that there was definitely opposition to Bruce Lee. In other parts of the world, there was definitely opposition to anything non-traditional. And Chinese martial art just was not as well known as some of the Japanese and Korean systems. And so in the beginning, there was definitely opposition to Chinese martial art in general and to Bruce Lee specifically. Especially after the infamous Liberate Yourself from Classical Karate. After that was penned, Black Belt magazine itself received numerous letters critical of Bruce Lee and his ideas, ranging from stuff like his obvious lack of understanding of true karate, right, to describing Bruce Lee really as some kind of martial arts tricks or martial art stunt performer. The third stage is self-evidence. So now, through the test of time, there's increasing evidence that supports the idea, which goes from having a few early adopters into becoming more mainstream. Now, of course, in JKD, we're almost there. We've been becoming mainstream for 40 years now, right? Okay, but there is definitely a lot more support for JKD in the world today than there was, let's say, in 1967. A lot of it probably because Bruce Lee became more popular through the movies. And again, even though there may not have been a lot of actual instruction unless you knew where to be in Seattle or Oakland or Los Angeles or even North Carolina for a while, right? The joke I made earlier, my kind of joke about mainstream, Jeet Kune Do's journey, and it's an ongoing thing. Jeet Kune Do's journey into mainstream acceptance, I say it began with this. This is volume 1, and I'm sure Richard Torres has about 10 copies of this, right? This is Fighting Stars Volume 1. This is Richard will correct me if I get this wrong. I think this is October of 1973. So there were actually a lot of the stories in here were written and set, and the magazine itself was probably set up to print before Bruce Lee passed away. And so there is, inside the magazine, there is a memorial to him because it ended up being published after his unfortunate demise. So I think Fighting Stars is where the cult of Bruce Lee, let's call it, right? And remember, nothing wrong with the cult of Bruce Lee, okay? Right? But that's where everything started. And if you look at it today, decades later, we're still having the arguments about Bruce Lee's fighting ability, about Jeet Kune Do's efficacy as a combat art, its role or its place in sport martial art, in combat sports. And of course, we also have the opposition within the family, right, about just what it is that constitutes Jeet Kune Do. Right, so seems like if we almost need an Arthur Schopenhauer for the 21st century, right? Anyhow, so that was my little take on that. I do want to tell you, I think I might start doing, I played with it a few broadcasts ago, but I might start playing with the news of Jeet Kune Do, like if anything of interest comes up. And so I'll tell you guys about something that's going on on Facebook as usual, right? So last Friday, I had Greg Pichardo on with me on the dialogues, and some guy has taken, I don't know, some kind of exception to the fact that I guess I used the word Sifu Greg Pichardo. I may even have referred to him as Sifu Greg during the dialogue. I usually use the term Sifu Inasano when I talk about my teacher. And the guy's having a conniption over the fact that we're using titles and going off about how titles are not necessary. And the last thing I saw just before I came on is that somehow I am confused because I happen to use courteous terms of address in martial art. Apparently, that means I'm not that liberated, except that I'm pretty sure that Bruce Lee was referred to as Sifu in at least the Los Angeles school, because again, there are stories about that, right? So I don't know where this guy got that that idea from, that calling somebody Sifu. So I asked him, I go, well, I mean, would we use terms of address like Your Honor, right? At my school, the people who taught the kids classes, right? There was Mr. John, there was Ms. Marivelle, because you teach people to be courteous. So apparently in Jeet Kune Do, courtesy goes out the window by this guy's estimation. Anyhow, what's more interesting than that little sidebar where I digressed is this. In researching for today, here's what I found. That quote about the 3 stages of truth apparently is a, let's call it simplified, not dumbed down, a simplified version of what is actually written by Schopenhauer. And what Schopenhauer wrote was this: all knowledge, and especially the weightiest knowledge of the truth, to which only a brief triumph is allotted between the 2 long periods in which it is condemned as paradoxical or disparaged as trivial. That apparently is the original saying, not the whole 3 stages of truth thing. So I thought that was interesting, because it's kind of like we right now, apparently on the back of a magazine out there in the commercial world, they have gone ahead, people who should know better have gone ahead and assigned the absorb what is useful quote right back to Bruce Lee. And these are people who should know better. I was made aware of that just a couple of days ago. I still haven't picked up my copy of the magazine. Maybe Richard Torres will let me buy one of the 12 copies that he has. Right? I'm just kidding. But since I've mentioned Richard twice now, let me mention him a third time as we wrap this up. Richard's going to be back on the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues with me on Friday, usual time, 6 p.m. We're going to do another historical take on JKD, but we're going to delve into some of the books that that influenced Bruce Lee in his development. So that should be very interesting. So join us Friday at 6 p.m. for that. And that's about it. So again, feel free to share, like and comment, ask questions. I'll take a look at everything after posting. Sign up for notifications for when we go live here on Facebook. And also please subscribe over on the YouTube for the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast and the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. And be sure to hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. Today's a blue day. Nice. Oh, Dwight, that's a lovely shirt. Right? Okay, so I'll see some of you on Friday when we hang out with Richard Torres. Rest of you, I'll see you next week for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Until then, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Talk soon.